Each of these bullets represents a victim of gun violence in the US. However, there are not enough bullets to justify the human cost of this national emergency. Every day, America's streets are bleeding with innocent blood. For some, it's a constant state of warfare. War between communities, war between law enforcement and citizens. It's a talking mirror of reality. These bullets symbolize broken American dreams. However, not everything is lost. Some have decided to take action. These 9 men are standing tall with a hunger strike. Today is day 18. They are fighting against gun violence. Once they were witnesses to the violence, today they are fighting against the violence.
Well, here, this is a classroom, this is a universe. A lot of people have become desensitized to the kind of violence that goes on in the community, and it's kind of been a reawakening. Mothers have come to hang their slain children's shirt on the line there. We had Trayvon Martin's parents come to personally put his shirt. But the dialogue, particularly with the mothers, they haven't healed. But this has given them a renewed sense of hope.
We have had seasoned officers.
Edward retired from the local police force. His years in law enforcement made him aware of the realities of gun violence and how these takes a heavy toll on the quality of life inside of all the communities.
What I have discovered in doing that is that violence is a lower form of communication. When a person fails to have the ability to communicate on a spiritual level, then it goes down to a verbal level. From a verbal level, it goes down even further to the point that where when you start dealing with the actual violence, a person is lashing out because they've lost the ability to communicate on a higher level.
Well, my nephew is one of the ones on those pictures out there. He was killed in gun violence.
For other members of the Hunger Nine, the tragedy caused by guns is part of their family history. An all too familiar history all over America. A son, a daughter, a mother, or a father taken by mindless violence and bullets.
And a couple of my friends are on that. So I've seen gun violence, and I've seen the young children in the community, which I'm from the neighborhood right across the street, the Poker Bean Project, better known as Liberty Square Housing Unit. So I've personally been affected by the gun violence.
According to the Center for Disease Control, or CDC, more than 40,000 Americans were victims of gun violence between 2017 and 2018. In 2019, nothing has changed. Quite the contrary. As of now, there are more than 12,000 incidents related to gun violence.
The more I was hearing the gunshots, and then when I would hear that about Murder Grove, I realized how complacent we've become, and we started to accept this as the norm. Me as a father. And then that's when I realized that those things that have become normal to me, seeing people with a picture on a t-shirt, seeing people mourning the death of their own children, that I'm not removed from that situation. It's a high probability. I got 4 boys. So I realized, man, I have to do more as a father.
Recent studies suggest that there are more than 390 million guns in the US at any given time, and these are only the official numbers. At the same time, the firearms industry is making more money than ever, $28 billion annually. This money is the reason why the gun lobby is so powerful. And also, this is why it's not surprising that most of Republican and Democrat legislators are in the payroll of this controversial industry. So, for many, like the organizers of this gun show, it's business as usual.
5,000 to 12,000 people will come. Depends on the time of year, but generally upwards of 10 to 12,000 people, but it can be as low as 5,000 depending on the show. Miami being a bigger show will have the higher number of people. One-stop shopping. You come here, you will get everything done. You walk out, drop your paperwork in the mail, and you're done. So we have the best class out there, and I think we have the best show out there.
Back at the hunger strike site, police appears. They are looking for a suspect in a hit-and-run incident. Life is like this pretty much every day. It's a busy American afternoon. but it's also the result of a legacy of racism, inequality, and exclusion against Black and brown communities.
We cannot forget that the very country we live in, was established on violence, was established on kidnapping, was established on unfair wages and economic disparities and indentured servants and slaves. So America has a very, very rich culture of violence. And then when you look at the media today, you look at the video games and you look at the music, everybody has a role to play in curbing this violence. So what you see in urban communities where you see mainly Black and brown people is you see impoverished neighborhoods. You see people who don't have an equal opportunity when it comes to economic advancement and employment.
Marcelo Sanchez, USA Really, Miami.
Kids not guns! Kids not guns!
Wow.
Sobering realities.
Brother
Sobering
Lau,
realities.
as we roll into this evening, I mean, that clip, and I remember when you were all out there, it was a very powerful clip. So as everyone is coming in to Thursday Night Talks, it's a serious topic that we're talking about tonight, and we really want to make sure, as we always do, we ask you with a smile, like Brother Lau says, go get your peoples, because this is important.
Go get your peoples. All of them tonight. All of them. The big ones, the young ones, the old ones. I'm going to say it. The fat ones, the skinny ones, the every ones. Go get your peoples.
Absolutely, because it's affecting us all in one way or another. So this is something that you need to hear. You have to understand the power of the voice that's going to be speaking about these things this evening. But there's always something that we can do as a people, as a community, and affect our community always seems to always get the blunt of these things. Is the reason why we need as many people to join on and to share the things that you're going to hear this evening. So I am your sister, Michelle. I am your moderator for this evening.
Hostess with the mostest. We got to pause for the cause and give our sisters some love. Y'all better give our sisters some love. Hostess with the mostest.
Yes, sir. I praise you to Allah, Brother Lau. But it's a topic, and it's as a parent, as a citizen, as a mother. My heart is out for anyone that has lost anyone in a bout of violence. And I really pray and hope that I take something from this show as well. And I pray and hope that I can contribute in my way. And again, I hope that all that have not done it yet, go get your peoples. We're on Facebook, right? We're on YouTube, and you can see us on IG. So we're all.
Right. Sister Michelle, I gotta let them know real quick. Today, don't just go get Ray Ray and Pookie. Go get Amy and Lou. Get everybody.
Everyone.
We got a beautiful suburban urban clash on the Thursday Night Talk tonight. Go get your peoples.
Absolutely. So with that being said, Brother Lau, like I said, it's a hot topic. I won't get into the topic yet, but I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, and we got it. And we are off and running.
Off and running.
But we're not running away, family. We're running to the battle, just so you understand that. So as we always say on the Thursday Night Talks, I want to say assalamu alaikum to my Muslim brothers and sisters. I want to say praise the Lord to my Christian brothers and sisters. And I want to say shalom to my Jewish brothers and sisters and to my Black revolutionaries who got Black power, but to all you peace and freedom-loving people across the land. We welcome you into this sacred space tonight on Thursday Night Talks. And I'm telling you, powerful program. The guests that we have on here, we are putting you on the front line of every major struggle dealing with gun violence in America right here tonight, just by the guests that we have on here tonight. Very, very powerful. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the 7th Region Coalition, just think about it, people who might be in a very dark and dangerous time, like we just saw, right? Can you imagine trying to make it through those dark and dangerous times on a ship without a guiding light, that lighthouse? So we want to be your lighthouse. We want to be your motivational, inspirational, truth-throwing, transformational machine so that we can help save lives. And tonight, We're going to be taking a look through the lens of the Ministry of Defense because our children and our babies are under attack. Alert, 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 alert. Our children and our babies are under attack. Alert, alert, alert. It is not safe anywhere. Alert, alert. It's not safe in the grocery store. Alert, alert. It's not alert. It's not home or on the block. We have a state of emergency, and we have the right people with you this evening to talk about it. So, we're going to bring up our guest shortly, and you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to pass this mighty baton to our beloved sister, Sister Khalila Muhammad. There you go, right there. All right.
I want to first start off in the most holy name of Allah, always bearing witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. I would like to greet my dear fellow family in the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum, and that just simply means peace be unto you. I something told me. Normally I was just like, I'm sending out names. Hey, come and check us out. 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 Hey, so-and-so. Hey, this, hey, that. Something in my spirit said, don't send out anything. And I'm like, but they need to know this. We've been piping until sometimes you have to heed the call on your own accord. Because right now, we don't know if our baby is going to even be returning home. Everybody, thousands and thousands of people right now should be tuning in. Right now, only 5 people are tuning in at this moment. However, the people that their child might not be making it home tonight due to gun violence. And I hate to put that stigma in the air, but it's real. And I don't understand. I don't. And the thing is, I don't think we know how real it is until it becomes a fact in your own household and in your own community. And when you see people cry their souls out for mercy, we should be the ones to say, hey, we have this show every Thursday. We give solutions every Thursday. Our babies are dying by the second. And we have other things to do that's more important than our children.
Think about that.
So it's warning, as our teachings teaches us, before destruction. I want to be a clear warning today. We need to save our children. We need to protect our communities. We need to protect one another. How can we do that? Well, we have answers here that will pretty much help that effort if you listen and if you share. And that's all we're asking you to do is push a button and send.
I know it's going to happen, Sister Khalila.
And send.
They're going to start hearing these guests we have, and they're going to see who they are and hearing how they talk, and then they're going to try to go run and go get their people them. Go get your people now. Go get them.
Well, right. I hope that's a prayer, Brother Lau, and I'm gonna keep it moving.
Right, all right.
With that being said, I'm going to pass the baton to my dear Brother Tony.
Yes, ma'am.
Brother Tony. Look at him, the one hand wonder, just one hand. Just
one
behind
hand.
the back, behind the back, catch, snatch the baton. Go ahead, brother. Show off.
Dear family, peace, hotep, shalom, abargani. What's happening? Buenos dias, sakbase, assalamu alaikum. In the name of the one God who bears many names, some know him as Jah, others know him as Jehovah, others know him as Dios. Some know him as Bon Dieu. Some know him as Nomo. Some know him as Alabdumare. Regardless to the name that you call on God, call on God. I bear witness to his oneness. I bear witness to his name being Allah. I bear witness to the many messengers and prophets and saviors that have been raised among us. And we seek to be in that line to work, Sister Kalila, to warn our people, as we have been put on this post, if you will, by our student regional minister, Student Minister Patrick Muhammad, who serves in the capacity of the regional minister, the student regional minister of the Nation of Islam under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is our commitment to guide fallen humanity, no matter what color they are.
That's right.
Beginning, of course, with our own.
That's right.
But all of the human family must be warned and must be guided, because we're living in a very dangerous time. And so, dear family, share this information tonight with whoever we can. We must become more solution-minded. We must become security-minded in this hour and work to save our children, work to save our people. And Brother Lyle, I'm going to just end it right there for right now. We look forward to discussing this topic.
And I tell you what, Brother Tony,
gun violence, Brother Lyle, here in the United States of America and really throughout the world.
So I'm going to tell you to all of our listeners right now, and if the Sister Michelle and Sister Khalida, you can help me, because I want to count to 3. And when I count to 3, you're about to see some of the most influential movers and shakers in a movement to save lives across America from the horrific violence that we've seen taking place. And I want you to know that these are not only what they call subject matter experts. These are men and women whose hearts and lives have been affected directly by violence. But these are also men and women who understand the unity and the work that must be done. So I'm going to count to 3, and we're going to introduce you to some dynamic, powerful individuals in this great, great fight against gun violence. 1, 2, and 3. Look at the family grow, just like that. Family just grow. Boom. Look at the family just growing right there. Right. Come on. Hey, just grow, family. Grow. Just grow. Look at the family just grow. We're still waiting for the family to grow. And so as we there we go. All right.
He may have a connectivity issue, Brother Lyle.
Okay. But he's working on that. But family, I do want you to know, the first person I want you to know that is with us, I have to be honest, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. She's the star of the show. Right? Be like, well, why she get to be the star of the show? I'm gonna just tell you, because I don't know what you were doing at 16. There you are, Joe. Made it. All right, Joe. I don't know what you were doing at 16. I don't know. I don't even know what you've experienced in your life, or if you would even have the courage that our beloved sister has to take the stand that she has taken. I will tell you this much about Zoe. I will tell you that Zoe is the lead organizer for March for Our Lives in Parkland. And not only is she the lead organizer for that, she's the lead organizer for a huge event that's taking place in Parkland tomorrow, as other events are taking place across the country. And also you're going to hear from Zoe, who was at the adjacent middle school, attending school on the day that so many of our brothers and sisters lost their lives. And you'll hear more about that as well, too. So we honor your courage, Zoe. We just thank you so much for being here. I want everybody, just give us some love real quick now. Give us some love, man. Zoe, just give us some love, right?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm going to come back
so
to
you.
We're so happy to have you, right? And so we also have, right, a brother. He's no stranger to us in this work, but what if I told you that one of these faces you're looking at right now is one of the most foremost security experts, particularly when it comes to schools and understanding mass shootings. He has the largest Black security company in all of South Florida. He's done personal security for congressional member Frederica Wilson. He's also done work overseas. He's done all kinds of work for many entertainers and different people, but he's here tonight as our subject matter expert, our beloved brother, Ed Haynes. And he's also a member of the Hunger Nine. If you saw the opening video, he went on that 21 and a half day hunger strike. Y'all welcome brother Ed with some love. Yeah, love. Welcome, big brother. You know, and
Yes, sir.
so
Thank you,
appreciate
God,
you being
sir.
here, my brother.
Looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent.
Looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent. All right. And definitely last and not least, you know, I don't necessarily want to use this analogy, but I just want you to think about it. You know, when people talk about when life gives you lemons to make lemonade, but that's a much deeper understanding that when life prevents you with horrific circumstances, you're also presented with awesome solutions to help heal. And yes, you are looking at one of the most courageous human beings on the planet. He's an awesome father, and you're going to hear more about how he and his daughters have helped not just the Parkland community, but communities all over this country heal through the arts who have suffered from some of these horrific gun violence incidents. And that's our good brother, Joe Gary. Y'all give Joe some love now. Give him some love. Give him some love.
Absolutely wonderful to have you all.
Beautiful. So, you know, I want to start, family, if we could, I want to start with and Zoe, and I just can't thank you enough for your courage. See, because Zoe, one of the reasons why a lot of people they don't get involved is because they feel detached. If you could, and respecting your space, and we're here with you as well, take us back to your experience on that day in February when the events took place.
So on February 14th, 2018, I was in 6th grade. And the way that the middle schools and high schools in Parkland work is that the middle school shares a football field with high school. So they're basically right next to each other. And I was sitting outside with some friends, and we were working on a school project. And our teacher, when we went on lockdown, there was no alarm, and she wasn't able to see us. And so in the moment of the, panicking, she just forgot to bring us into her classroom. So for the entirety of the shooting, we were outside, and, we heard things like gunshots and screams, and we saw the first responders, but we were able to get inside. But, all those experiences at such a young age are so formative that I ended up developing PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. And all of those experiences, of my trauma from that day, I realized that I needed to do something, because I think a lot of survivors from Parkland, like myself, felt was that we were sitting idly by and watching more shootings happen, not only mass shootings, but violence every single day. And so that's why I think a lot of us have decided to get involved in activism.
Thank you so much. And I want to, God bless you for your stance. I want to go to Joe, because Joe, Parkland resident, take us back to your experiences on that day, if you will, good brother.
I had no idea that I was as close to Zoe as I'm about to tell you guys, but at 2:22 on February 14th, a shooter entered my daughter's high school. I got a text from my daughter by 2:26 saying that there was a code red drill. I had already heard from somebody that I knew that it was not a drill. And so I jumped in my car and I drove to the high school, and I got there at about 2:32, which is significant because that's the same exact time it took for a first police officer to enter the school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there were probably about 10 other parents all ready to breach the fence at the school and to run in and get their kid. We were being held back by yellow tape lines that were already in place. I stood there trying to communicate with my daughter. One thing that Zoe left out of this is that the shooter actually exited the building after about 6 minutes, somewhere between 6 and 7 minutes. and blended in with a bunch of the students and literally ran right past her school.
Wow.
So if she was still outside, she would have been in the very presence of that shooter.
Mm.
So we stood out there for quite a while watching SWAT teams from, I guess, every city in South Florida roll in, still demanding that someone go onto the campus and start to neutralize the situation. It wasn't happening. Didn't happen for quite some time. The crowd got bigger and bigger as we stood there. Rumors were all circulating around that there was potentially 2 shooters, that there were 10 people shot, then there were 30 people shot, and it was I had a mom pass out, faint next to me because of the stress that we were all under. We lost contact with our kids by text because all of the cell towers are being so jammed with communications that we couldn't get through. So the last text I had with my daughter was that she loved me. And that was the last time I heard from her until about an hour and a half later, when she finally made her way out of a building with her book bag on her back, her hands over her head, and SWAT team members in the front of the line and SWAT team members in the back of the line holding the same assault rifle that was used by the shooter, escorting these kids out. Now, when they were taking the kids out of the school, every one of them was not only a victim of gun violence, but at that point were considered a suspect as well. And so all of their backpacks and books and computers were left in a giant pile. I was closest. I had already been in contact with a couple of other parents. I jammed as many kids as I could into my car, which was 6. Some of them were on top of each other, and we drove out of there. I took them to my house. What I didn't know was that the shooter was actually being arrested on the street that I live on at about the time that I was driving over to my house with these kids. And so I had a hard time even getting back to my house for these kids to start to get some sense of, security, because there was no sense of security that they had anywhere near that school during the entire time that they were locked in there. And so when kids talk about post-traumatic stress, when you see it firsthand like that, when you see SWAT teams rolling up in what looked like military vehicles with complete body armor and getting out and trying to figure out how they're going to attack a school that your daughter is sitting in, it's pretty traumatic. What happened after that was that ambulances started showing up, and they set up what I would call to be a makeshift triage center in the middle of the road. And then we started seeing some people come out, wounded people. But we never saw 17 other people come out. And a lot of my friends didn't have the opportunity to take their kid home that day. They waited for hours and hours. They went to the Marriott, where they were held in a room, still trying to figure out whether or not their child was going to come home to them. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
I can't tell you the gratitude we have for your courage to share and relive those experiences, not just for us and our audience tonight, but have now synergized and created a movement, and I can't thank you enough, first of all, as a father, for doing what fathers are supposed to do, on both ends, in terms of the day of that event. And then, as folks are going to find out later on tonight, the beautiful gift that your children have and how that's helping to have an impact on this. I want to open it up to the team, but I want to go back to there he is right there, Ed. Ed.
Yes, sir. I apologize. I'm out here in California on this 110 freeway, and it's crazy right now, so I apologize.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to ask you, Ed, I know if you had a chance to hear Joe, you had a chance to hear Zoe, but as you work in the security industry and even in schools in security, as you hear these stories now increase and intensify, what kind of thoughts go to your mind in terms of what we're going through in the time we're living in?
Well, you know, Sister Kalia touched on it earlier.
That's
in
Sister
terms
Kalila, right?
of-
Because no, I got to pause right there because if you don't get a name right, I'm gonna get in trouble, and I ain't getting in trouble.
I said, I
Kalila.
did say Kalila, right?
Oh yeah, there you go. Yes, you did. Yeah. Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
Yes, you
All
surely
right.
did. That was my headphones, brother. You had it right.
Yeah, you are not gonna get me having the sister jack me up on national TV. But yes, brother, you know, we're facing a time where people are being forced now to pay attention. For so long, we have just been existing and thinking that life is someone else's responsibility. But at this point, we can no longer do that because everyone is now realizing that we got to pay attention because stuff is happening all around us. And if we don't take account of everything that's happening for ourselves, have these tragedies that are happening more and more. I know for myself, having the contract with Dade County Public Schools, even my guards, you know, you got to look at it from different perspectives. You never would think about it, but even the security guards now are concerned. They're like, you know, hey, it's like I'm a sitting duck here. If somebody comes in and does this, because a lot of times you have things such as budgetary constraints. You know, people think more in terms of budget than safety. And you know, you got an unarmed guard here at a school. What is an unarmed guard gonna do if this guy comes in with an AR-15? All that means is that unarmed guard is the first victim. So, you know, from where I sit, it's a very concerning situation. Fortunately, unfortunately, depending on what it is, that I've had to look at all kind of other alternative measures that can keep these children and staff safe, and in negotiations with several individuals to try to implement some things, because the one thing we know for sure, if the individual never gained access to the facility, then the shootings would not have happened.
Right.
So at this point, that's, you know, from my perspective as a security professional, that's where my emphasis is on now. And I have some solutions that I'm presenting to various individuals. But if you got to keep the person out of the school to begin with,
Right.
the mindset of that individual, that created that individual, all of that we have no control over. But we do have control over trying to harden the access points to where these very valuable lives are being stored at. And that's where my focus has been and is right now as I travel around the country talking to different people and trying to implement solutions that can minimize these kind of issues. Because if the guy never accessed the school, he couldn't have killed the children. If the guy never entered the grocery store, he couldn't have killed the people that were in there shopping. So access becomes very important. And basically now we all have to put on our security hats and start looking at stuff. You know, they had that saying, if you see something, say something. We all now have to become responsible and looking around for anything that's looking kind of suspicious and being able to let others know, because by the time these individuals go into action, in many cases, it's much too late. And that's what we're trying to avoid now.
Thank you so much, Ed. I'm gonna open it up for the team to jump in. But as they do, Zoe, there's some things going on across the country right now, and some things taking place in Parkland that you want people to be a part of. Let us know what that is, and then team, feel free to jump on in.
Yeah, so before I go into that, I just want to say Joe and I had very similar experiences. By the time he got to the school, I was still outside. So, you know, and the SWAT officers with assault rifles, I saw them as well. So it's really scary how vast gun violence can pervade the entire community. And going into that, after, you know, the tragedies in Uvalde and Buffalo, marginalized felt like we have another window of opportunity because politicians, since they prioritize profit over us, the only thing that motivates them to listen to the people is when we all come together and demand change.
I apologize, Zoe. You said something and my headphone went out. You said something about politicians do profit. What did you say?
Profit over like their constituents. So tragedy is when we can all unite together and agree on change. And so that becomes a very powerful moment. And so March for Our Lives on June 11th, this Saturday, there's going to be nationwide marches. So there's over 400 in the United States. There's a huge one at 2 p.m. in DC. But in Parkland from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Pine Trails Park Amphitheater, we're going to be having a rally and march. Joe and Shine are going to be there to perform. We're going to have a lot of speakers that include survivors and community activists and a member of the Hunger Nine. And it's going to culminate in a march around the park to symbolize us coming together and demanding change from our lawmakers.
Wow.
Yep. And I can tell you that taking part in the first March for Our Lives in DC with my kids up on stage performing and looking out at 1 million people, I left there thinking that change had to happen. You know, and here we are, 5 years later saying we have to do it again.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many more times we're going to have to do it, but I'm going to go every time.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring kids and put them on a stage and give them a voice.
Right.
And that's what we're going to do. I mean, I don't know how things are going to change in the political arena when Sandy Hook had second graders killed, and now we just had a shooting where elementary school kids are killed, and still people send thoughts and prayers as if that's somehow going to help a parent who lost somebody. It doesn't. What would help is if Mr. Hayes was right and we could figure out a way to secure these kids, these most precious lives. Right? I have a wife who works in the elementary school. She is the first point of contact at her school. She sits in the office by herself, checking people in. Every day I have to worry about my wife going to work at an elementary school. It's ridiculous. We really have to figure out a way to change this.
Sister Kalita, that reminds me that one of the questions you had about policymakers. You want to share that? I think it's very timely right now.
Yes, that was actually Sister Michelle, because Sister Michelle was actually going to look.
Yeah.
My dear sister.
Yeah. Well, it's a caveat. So I can't even. I don't even know what even to say. I'm a parent. I have children, and I always worry when they're in school, and even with my son being on a college campus, I'm always warning him and making him aware. But I have a question, I guess, maybe not a question, but a statement and a question. With all of the attention over the years, because I'm not going to just take it to just one shooting, another shooting. I think the bigger concern is guns itself, right? I think we're talking about the gun violence. We're talking about gun control. And those are two things. No one wants to give up the guns. Everybody wants their guns. They can't control the guns. We're not pushing the agenda in Congress the way it should be. I just saw some changes that they were talking about today that was in the news about gun control. Congress is trying to take a stand or making some moves to put some things in place. But the issue is that, no one wants to give up their guns. So how do you control a situation when people are profiting off of guns and Congress not really wanting to deal with it because it's a money-making industry within the government and the lobbyists that are pushing their agenda to have the guns? So the question that I had around policy is that with everything that keeps happening, as you said, Joe, enough of the thoughts and prayers, because it doesn't really console a parent when they lose a child. I think the question is, how do we deal with the issue of, and maybe this may be spoken of in your rally, Zoe, is how do we deal with the fact of it's just too many guns, period. And access to them is ridiculous. How do we control that? How do we get Congress to understand that we need not just tougher laws, but we need to minimize the guns, period? And whom should have them, right? Because there's no reason why an 18-year-old should have access to an assault rifle. It's ridiculous. There's no need for it. Like, what are you doing with an assault rifle? But the policies right now, they're being glazed over because of so many shootings, but the shootings won't stop until you grab a hold and get those guns off the streets.
Well, the way to get the guns off the street is to get the money out of the people's pockets that make these guns, right? And the way to do that is to hold them accountable in a court of law when they are targeting these advertisements to males that are 16 to 20 years old and telling them that they need not just one assault rifle, but many assault rifles. There's a small percentage of people holding this country hostage because most of the guns are sold to a small group of people, not to a mass of people, right? So the majority of people in this country don't own a gun, but we have more guns than any other country in the world, sold to a very small minority of our citizens. And go ahead.
No, please go continue.
Yeah, and so what the gun industry figured out was that people were getting fed up. The general population was getting fed up, and so the way that they could market these guns was to market them to the people who felt ostracized, felt like they needed to protect themselves somehow in a patriotic manner, which makes no sense to me. They said that they would be able to protect their house, their castle with an assault rifle. I have never seen a news story where someone has thwarted a robbery at a house with an assault rifle. All I see are stories of assault rifles going into the general public and killing as many people as possible. So these stories that they keep telling us, they're not true.
Right.
There's a small percentage of people holding this country hostage. And because the industry that makes these guns makes so much money, they have influence.
Joe, you actually answered at least partly answered the question I was going to ask.
Could we do this, Brother Tony, before you answer another question? Because Zoe and Ed might have wanted to have to say something on that. I don't know. I just want to check in.
Yeah. So Joe makes a good point, but I think that something that martial arts has started doing more is focusing on where other types of gun violence besides mass shootings. So only a small percentage of the country is controlling all the assault rifles, but that's not necessarily true with handguns. And handguns count for a majority of the deaths, and that's because of violence that happens every single day. And so we've seen this dilemma where obviously people have a right to arm themselves, but when does that right trump people's rights to life? And it's a tricky issue because the term gun control was initially created to simply control guns in Black and brown communities, right? So instead of gun control, martial arts is all for gun violence prevention. And that means applying all these policies, not just to communities that are more susceptible to violence, but to the communities that more often perpetrate it. And so for handguns, that's why our big ask for this event is universal background checks. We believe that kind of serves as the backbone for a society without gun violence. And on top of that, we can, implement more policies. But I think that obviously assault rifles need to be dealt with because the fact that they can kill so many people in such a little period of time, machine guns aren't legal, right? We don't see people having machine guns in the streets. We have restrictions on weapons of mass destruction, and I think assault rifles need to be enforced as such. But people still have the right to have guns. So then it becomes a question of how do you encourage responsible gun ownership without oppressing certain groups of people?
You told us you were 16. Now, Zoe,
I was just about to ask. I promise you. I was about to ask.
We're going to have to start IDing them before they come on the show.
I promise you. I was just about to ask. I said,
I was thinking the same thing. I said, what an intelligent
listen. I was like, is Zoe a puppet? Or I'm just... What in the helicopter and gingerbread man? I'm like, what is going on?
Right. And she's leading the movement. So all y'all sitting home on your rusty dusty and you ain't doing nothing, it's 400 things you can get involved in this weekend. And what say you about the whole gun policy issue? Where do you stand? Legislation, policy changes, laws. And then Brother Tony, you can ask.
Well, first of all, I'm going to definitely take a knee to Sister Zoe, because it would be unwise to do anything other than that. However, I want to also bring up an issue that a lot of times gets missed, and that is that we have to also be mindful that a lot of the weapons moving around on the streets are not moving around with people who obtain them legally. So when you have the proliferation of guns floating through the streets, a lot of times legislation will only affect the law-abiding community and not following the law. So once again, it goes back to really pay attention and to just really, we have to lock it down ourselves, because no matter how many laws you pass, there are people who are lawless and they could care less. Something has to be done, and that's a good start. But I also just want to let everybody know that we cannot forget the fact that all of these other weapons and people who are not going to be impacted by those laws, we have to know. Because being a former police officer myself, most of the guns that we came in contact with on the street were not from people who, if you ran a background on them, they'd have a dirty background, but they're not going into a gun shop and buying the gun. The guns are moving on the street. So, that's another area. Now, on the assault weapons piece, that's a key piece, because you cannot conceal a rifle. You cannot conceal a AR-15. And that goes back to Sister Kalia. I sent you a link to working with right now, that what it does is it identifies a person that has a weapon upon entering or coming into any area. And once that weapon is identified, all the registered users in that area are immediately notified via text that that's a red alert, that you got to be careful because you have these situations going on.
Wait, brother Ed, brother Ed, did I just hear you say that you've developed like an Amber Alert system for weapons?
If Sister Kalia, if you can look at your email that I sent you, and I don't know if it's possible for you to load that up and show people, but yes, there is a that I have access to that will identify if a weapon is in an area and notify everyone within the region, like in a school. It will text all the kids and the teachers and the staff and let them know that there's a weapon. It is basically a shooting situation, and it will let everyone know, code red. So if it's teachers, lock your rooms. Kids, take safety. It gives you that advance notice, because once again, in most of these shooting instances, the victims only knew that they're already in their face. So if there was a system in place that would identify the threat as soon as it entered the area, it would be very helpful in saving lives. So that's one of the solutions that I'm bringing to the table right now.
Okay. And without further ado, I definitely want to show that video. I do have it, Brother Ed, and I can show that video right now.
Like right now, Sis Kalila?
Like right now?
Like right now.
Right.
You mean like right now?
Like right now.
See, we're talking about slow legislation. That's what happened. That's how slow legislation is, right? We want gun law change like right now.
But Ed's going to play a video while he's driving on the highway in California. That's pretty good.
Technology here first on Thursday Night Talks,
where the Office of Public Safety works hard to promote a safe and secure environment for the students, faculty, staff, and visitors on the campus. It's just another day at the school, university, or venue. Although we never want to encounter such a situation, it is possible that someone may come onto campus with the intention of harming others. It can happen with little to no warning at any time, any location. With the help of mobile security solutions like Vigil and their collaboration with Foxconn, we can now identify threats in the building. When an active shooter is reported on campus, the EV machine will alert personnel that will send out a text message to all registered devices, alerting students, staff, and the police of the danger on campus. When you receive this message, find the closest secure location and wait until an officer or personnel informs you that it is all clear. What is the number one activity at K through 12 schools? Code Red active drills. Within the last 10 years, 180 school shootings, thousands of victims. Our new reality is school shootings are increasing and no community is spared. What can we do? Be informed. Vigil has partnered with Foxconn to create a mobile security solution to identify the threats in the building. Don't be the last to know. To learn more, visit us at govigil.com today.
Wow.
You know, I know technology is new and so forth, but how come the whole world doesn't know about this? How come all of these innovative, creative ideas and solutions, how come all of these great concepts and laws and thoughts and all of these great moral, ethical things are locked away from the American people, family?
Well, one reason, Brother Lyle, is because we decided that we would not publicly go public with this information until we can go spread it to the world, because she had it first.
Excellent, excellent. Brother Tony, I know you've been itching to ask something there, brother. I want you to go ahead and make sure you do that now, brother.
Well, Joe partly answered the question earlier, and that's what prompted me to want to ask the question at that particular time. But when for Zoe and for Joe, when you speak to people and you present reality to them, that people in that are elected into office, when it comes down to gun control, yeah, many Republicans think this way, but also a lot of Democrats think this way also, because now we're dealing with their political campaigns being financed by a big lobby, which is the gun industry. When you speak to this reality to them, I know, Joe, you spoke a little bit about how they responded, but generally, what kind of responses do you get? Have you had any success stories to get people to think about what you present to them?
Yeah, so that's a difficult arena to throw yourself into. So, you have great support amongst the people who think like you do. So if I'm talking to liberal Democrats, I have a great deal of support for my ideas and beliefs. If I'm talking to very conservative Republicans, I have to work hard to get my message to them, right? And so this is what Zoe and March for Our Lives is really trying to do, which is to find ways to package information that's acceptable to the people who need to hear it, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you talk about gun control, just the word control is already a problem, right? I always say I'm a gun sense voter, right? Which means if you can come up with sensible ways to help guns be safer, because what we're talking about, again, like I have a personal stake in assault weapons because of what happened, but the main cause of death due to weapons is suicide, and then second is domestic violence. None of these involve automatic rifles. They typically involve a handgun, like Zoe was saying, and so you try to package information in a way that it doesn't become offensive to other people's belief that they have a right to bear arms. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do and to try to figure out how to get across as a message. When Zoe was saying, like, we try to talk about being against gun violence, well, pretty much everyone should be against violence. If you're not against violence, then there's no hope for me ever, turning you around to see things my way, which is that we should all learn to respect each other. And we talk about securing spaces and making spaces more secure and having all of this technology. And I think all of it has to work together. But what I see from my kids after they went through this is that code reds became more damaging, right? It's a more damaging scenario for my kid to have to sit through a code red when she's already been through a real code red, and so every time they had a drill, it triggered PTSD, and that's one of the main things that we work on with the art programs that we have, is trying to figure out ways to have kids deal with this post-traumatic stress disorder, and by using art and therapy, which is actually very effective. The University of Miami sent up some of their psychology students, grad students, to study our program, and they did some testing before the program started. We give a free summer camp every summer. We've had about 400 kids go through it. And the stress that teenagers are under is a lot different than when I was a kid. I don't remember locking my door in my house when I grew up. I don't remember, maybe kids got into a fight once in a while in school, but I don't remember ever hearing about a gun being discharged on my high school. So I think I just grew up in a different time, and I'm trying to figure out how to help my kids get through this time, because this time is a lot different than anything that I think we've experienced as a country. The amount of violence that on a daily basis that our kids are faced with is tremendous. Like, even our lawmakers have been faced with some violence recently, and so how secure do they feel in their workplace? And they're asking our kids to go to school in basically an unsecure environment like that. That's why I think Mr. Hayes is doing great work trying to figure out how to secure these places. I would try hopefully to find a way where it doesn't have an impact of scaring kids while they're in that, what used to be their safe space, right? And so our camp, our methods of using art, of writing songs to give voice to emotions that you can't voice otherwise, is a safe space that we try to create.
And Joe,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're gonna let people, not just yet. I want people to get exposure to what he has done and created. And as you're listening to this conversation, I just wanted to remind us, family. I wanted to remind us that we're talking about human beings. And as we're talking about human beings who have these lived experiences, Zoe, what say you right now to people that want to get involved?
Yeah, so before I do, I just want to jump off of what Joe was saying. I think that it's hard to have success with people who are so ingrained in their own beliefs. I can say the one person I have had success with is my grandpa. He was a self-proclaimed cowboy when he was younger. He used to like guns. But when I went through everything, he immediately changed his position. And it's sad that in America, that's what it takes for people to change their positions, right? And he was able to realize how important it was to implement gun violence prevention policies, but only after his granddaughter survived a school shooting. And I think that's just really telling of how polarized our country is. And what people can do about that is show up this Saturday to their local march. People can text the word march to 954 to find the march closest to them and sign up. If you can't go out to a march on Saturday, we are going to be live streaming our own march, and the DC march is going to be on national television. I encourage everyone to vote in the midterm elections for common sense gun safety candidates that are willing to implement policies like universal background checks. That is the most important way we can have an influence in our government. Because at the end of the day, if they don't want to listen to us, they don't have to. So that's why we have to use our political power to ensure that the people that are representing us are people that actually prioritize our lives.
16-year-old Zoe right there, y'all. That's
I know. I can't.
Right.
I'm
16-year-old, right? So look, Ed, go ahead, Michelle.
No. I was gonna say before we jump to Ed, I wanted and we can pose this after Ed makes his comment. I really want to understand, with the universal background checks, I think this is important. I've seen that over the years proposed. So before Ed makes his comment, please, everyone, think about this question afterwards. Considering the height of the situation with things like the Proud Boys and these other types of groups that are out there that are creating scenarios or utilizing the youth that they have within their groups and utilizing malls and schools and things as soft targets, right? for their agenda. They won't come out and say it, but we're seeing that these locations are soft targets for them. And so I want your opinion on that. And of course, going back to the universal background checks or particular groups, those types of things that are known for these types of things. I don't know what your stance on that, but I really would love to hear that. But go ahead, Ed. I wanted you to finish out your last comment.
We can't hear you, Ed.
You're on mute, good brother.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. So basically, again, okay, trying to come behind Zoe is just it's a life sentence. You know,
like a bad seat at the poker table.
It's a bad feeling right now. You know, it's a really bad feeling. And I'm gonna say she's 16. I'm gonna say the reason why I'm not having that much of an impact is because I'm almost 60. How about that? So, anyway, the beautiful part of this all, because I back everything that everyone is saying, and what I did want to say to Joe is to eliminate that false red alert situation, Joe. What happens when the weapon is identified by the system is monitored by a human being. And that human being has to be the one to activate the entire system. Other than that, then it doesn't happen. So that's how you keep from having those false red alerts. You have an individual that screens it to make sure that there's an actual threat and not just something where it's a malfunction. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I wanted to put that out there. But other than that, when you start looking at things like the universal background check and other solutions that's being made, it goes to Zoe's initial point, which is people that honor profits more than human life, because the universal background check is the cheapest way out. So we have to realize that a lot of the solutions that people are finding, they're not just trying to find solutions, they're trying to find cheap solutions or solutions that don't cost as much as others. So it's back to the negotiation between what type of action can be taken that most people can agree on. And, that's just the reality of the situation from my perspective.
Excellent point, dear brother Ed. And let me take a look at the screen here real quick. Look at the boxes in the screen here, because what you're looking at right now, you do not see. And let me be clear what I say about that. Usually individuals that have suffered mass shootings in suburban communities, they only work with suburban communities and people who look like them. And usually people who deal with the crime and violence in urban communities on a daily basis only work in the urban communities and don't think that the people out in the suburban communities care. But I want you all to look what's right before your face right now. We're together. And I would like this is a question for each of you, because I know each of you had an aha moment. Ed, you had to have an aha moment when you saw them white brothers and sisters from Parkland come see you at the Hunger 9 on your hunger strike, right? Zoe, I know you had to have some aha moments as you organize and now you're starting to work with other races and cultures. And Joe, I know you had to have some aha moments as this gun violence permeated not just the suburbs, but you find out that it is a universal issue too. So talk about that.
Yeah. Personally, I think that I've always been aware of the fact that Parkland happened in a white, affluent suburban community, and that's why we got so much attention to begin with. But I never realized the extent of that until March for Our Lives has always been very dedicated to racial justice, and so we had a workshop on how gun violence specifically impacts Black and Brown communities. And when we were learning about the history of the term gun control and how it was enforced upon those Black and Brown communities, that really opened my eyes to how pervasive this issue is. And we can't talk about gun violence without including those types of violence, because it's not just white kids that are being shot in their classrooms. It's kids who are being shot every single day. It's in communities like Uvalde, who have little to no resources to cope with such a tragedy. And I think that it's really important for organizers like myself, who are in a privileged position and generally get more media attention, unfairly so, to uplift other activists as well and show we're not the only type of people that have to deal with this every day. There's thousands of people who have to deal with this that no one pays attention to.
Wow.
Yep, absolutely. For me, we started this program with this healing through the arts and did not know what we were doing. And so there was no book, there was nobody we could talk to help us do it. So we just kind of threw it all together. And then one of the bigger things that we wanted to do was to make sure that we took this message of how you could use art to cope with trauma and bring it to other communities. And one of the first communities we brought it to was Chicago. My daughter actually gave a TED talk there on using the arts in response to gun violence. It was all urban gun violence speakers there. And it was one of the most moving weekends that we've had since the shooting. So we heard people talking about not worrying about whether or not there was going to be a shooting at their school, potentially one day, but people laying in their bed at night wondering if a bullet was going to come through their wall on a daily basis, right? Because they just lived in that kind of neighborhood. And it was like a completely eye-opening experience for us, where trauma is very interesting. When it's foisted upon you all at once, it creates this PTSD, but it has the same effect if it's just dribbled upon you day by day by day. And that's what urban communities are experiencing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome comment. Ed, did you want to respond to that, dear brother? What you see between the forces coming together?
Yes, sir. One of the biggest things I want to acknowledge Zoe and the Parkland crew for, because of course, when we did the Hunger Nine situation in Liberty City, it was Parkland and Zoe's crew that basically looked at it and said, you guys are out here doing a very important work, but you don't have the media attention that we get. So since the media follows us, we're going to come to you and bring the media to you. To me, that was one of the most powerful moves that could ever be made. So if anyone is listening right now and they think that what Zoe is saying is just talk, I'm here to tell you it's not. Because while I was out there starving for 21 and a half days and lost 30 something odd pounds, of which, by the way, those 30 something odd pounds hired a private investigator and they found me back. So I'm no longer there. But anyway, the bottom line is that these guys made sure that we got national and international coverage for what we were doing. And for that, I want to publicly thank Zoe and the whole crew at Parkland for supporting the Hunger Nine.
Awesome.
Of course.
Awesome. All right. So I want to
moving agenda.
I want to ask one more question, and then I want to segue into Joe's program. Zoe, there's a lot of speakers that are lined up for the march on tomorrow, and I tell you, I was blown away yesterday in the session that we had as folk were getting prepared.
I want to be clear, March is Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Saturday, right?
If I miss it, I'm going to be really upset.
What did I say? Friday?
Okay. You say tomorrow.
Get me right? Saturday, family, Saturday, right?
Saturday.
But
right
one of the young ladies was talking about what it's like growing up in a household where there are mentalities that end up producing some of the individuals that carry out some of these horrific crimes, and talking about how everything starts at home. So I just want us to take a moment to go into, family, if you will, the production of a mind that would do such a thing. What kind of things must a human being be experienced to grow to? But however you all want to deal with that, because all of our children are suffering.
Right.
And so if we can understand that their suffering begins before the triggers are pulled, there must be other triggers. So how do you all want to deal with that? And then we'll deal with Joe's program.
Yeah. So what one of the speakers who we're going to have, as you were just talking about, is someone who survived domestic violence in a household where the abuser had access to firearms. And a really good point that she made is that obviously we all know about the cycle of abuse, but this also applies to school shootings and everyday shootings, because domestic violence is a huge driver of what creates someone who is capable of committing such an act. Obviously, there are so many core issues that we have to deal with, but I think it's really a point that goes, like, I guess, underreported, the impact of domestic violence and how not only is it actively hurting people, but it's also creating a toxic living environment where these types of, I guess, actions and beliefs just become normal. And I think that if we want to tackle gun violence, we also have to focus on domestic violence. Not only the people that are trapped in intimate partner violence or in domestic violence households, but also the potential mental health impacts it might have on people who live in those environments.
Yep, exactly. And one of the problems I think that we face as a society is that people end up living in these silos where they think that these problems that they're experiencing in these houses are unique to themselves and they're alone, and they don't have an ability to, talk about these things and express these things in a group where, what I continue to go back to is what we do with the arts, is because I've experienced it. I've experienced spoken word. I've experienced people writing songs about cutting or about domestic violence or about eating disorders. They're all pain that they're carrying by themselves. And if you can give them an opportunity to share that pain with a group, you might actually prevent somebody from becoming the next violent person. And so what I learned through my kids, because the arts have always been important to me. My kids have always been involved in theater, and many of the kids that started March for Our Lives were theater kids that were their friends, my daughter's friends. And you develop a sense of empathy that, through exposure to the arts, that you sometimes don't get if you're not exposed to the arts. And that's why I think it's important. And that's why if you're a Title I school and you want to put on a middle school play and you don't have the money to do it, we'll help pay for it. That's what we do. It's part of what we do. And we just try to make people understand, like, we're all connected, right? And we all have the same doubts and fears. Nobody is living a perfect life, no matter what it looks like on Instagram. Don't think that that's true. So, we got to figure out a way to start caring for each other.
Awesome. Team, what do you think if we go into Joe's piece and then we all come back for our closing comments?
Sure.
And so as he gets ready to show
my
this
video.
piece. So all right. So look, as I want you to kind of bring the video in, but I want people to understand that this was something that was created out of a need from our children who were hurting and traumatized by the shooting. So talk us through the development of it, and then go ahead and introduce it, Joe.
So what I was telling you, like, I had those 6 kids in my car and I brought them back to my house. And, for the next several days, these kids that were always, kind of the weird theater kids, were always together, always creating stuff. My daughter and her friend wrote a song about the emotions that they were going through as a result of the shooting. They wrote it and it was almost done, and they shared it with their drama teacher, and the drama teacher got a call from CNN saying, we'd like somebody to sing something while people are coming in. Do you have any students that could sing? And she suggested that maybe my daughter and her friend would sing the song that they just wrote. And so they immediately grabbed about 5 of their friends to create a chorus. And this is how living in an artsy house works, right? You get like all of this creativity going, and these kids were not talking to anybody. They were talking to each other, but they weren't really talking to their parents. And then they wrote a song that really basically was a song of resilience. And I don't know if you guys remember the town hall that happened at CNN after the shooting, but it was a pressure cooker. We were sitting in there going, I think someone's going to go flip over Marco Rubio's car. I think like it was getting really, really tense. I think it was almost too soon for that to happen, but it did. And then my daughter and her friends stood up and sang a song, and all of that pressure came out of that room. And people turned their lights on their phones and were waving them back and forth. And we're like, well, I guess this has the power to kind of lower the level of tension amongst people that were on opposite sides of this issue. And so we woke up the next morning. There was like 7 million views of the song, and we
Well,
I talked to
7
my
million
daughter.
and one right now. 7 million and one, because you're gonna hear
my daughter
it.
and Andrea's dad talked to her daughter and said, "Well, that was great. I mean, what do you want to do now?" And they said, "We want to help other kids do the same thing." And that's what we've been doing ever since. And so we've been doing it not only here in Parkland, but we've offered these services to other places where there were shootings, and we've gone out and preached the value of something that is being diminished every day in our society, which is the respect for what art can do. John Lewis said, that a movement without music is like a bird without wings. It doesn't take flight. Music is such an important part of what we're doing and addressing gun violence. And it's such an important part to make our kids able to cope with very difficult things. My daughter is now at the University of Miami studying music therapy, working with veterans, working with kids that are sick with terminal diseases. So I'm very proud of what she's turned her life into. She's going to
family,
continue.
think about how much of that is needed in the hood.
Yeah.
Think about that. Take us through, Joe. I'm all excited, man. I want to hear the song, man.
If you think about it, though, like if you're at a church or if you're at a temple and you want to get spiritual, you're singing. That's what you do. That's the closest connection to God that you can make, in my opinion.
Beautiful comment.
So one of the things that we did too is that we're crazy because we're from Parkland and we come up with crazy ideas, and we have kids that are like, I guess, a little bit of overachievers. They're 16, they're giving speeches like, who is this person? So my daughter and her friend came up with this thing about making a trumpet out of AR-15 bullet casings, and we did, and we called it and nobody knew what we were going to do with it or if it was even going to be anything. We called it the Instrument of Hope. And we had about 100 of the world's best trumpet players gather in two places, New York and LA, and record a trumpeted version of the song that they wrote after the shooting. And this trumpet has traveled around, and every time it's played at a concert or at a school, their only requirement is they record them talking about gun violence as an issue in society. And they get to take the trumpet out. And I'm going to show you a little video about this trumpet that travels around and keeps the conversation of gun violence going. Because
we love trumpets now. You're going to come to find and know, Joe, we love trumpets.
Oh, here you go. I just got to figure out, like, I'm not as good as sharing, but I'm going to try my best to figure this out. So we're going to share.
Yep, I think you got it, Joe.
I hope so. Let's see.
I have to actually add it.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
It? All right.
Here we go. Oh, sorry. I have the wrong video queued. I'm going to pull up the other one. 1 second. Take 1 second. It'll be worth it.
Ah, you're fine.
Okay. While he's taking us to that, family, remember, there's events that are taking place in your neighborhoods. And if there's not, maybe you need to be having one. How about this for an event? A conversation. Are you even still having conversations about peace? And is this it here, Joe?
This is it. Here we go.
All right.
All right.
Brass bullet casings turned into an instrument of hope. 2 students, survivors of the Parkland, Florida mass shooting, joined by 71 musicians, honoring the victims and survivors of gun violence by performing their song, Shine. You threw my city away. You tore down the walls and opened up all the gates. You built this town. You burned all the bridges and slowly left drown. But you knocked the knocks down over again. You never us, but promise we'll be stronger. And when after the leg we're putting up a fight, you will shine. Hope and healing through the arts. Join us. Instrumentofhope.org.
That's just great work there, Joe.
That was beautiful.
My God.
And shine, family. Right. And we gotta keep on shining. You know, and I
Yeah.
thank you, Joe, because I was watching that and it was just reminding me of a couple of things. One of the things that reminded me of, family, is that good will always prevail over evil. You know, and we have to continue to remind ourselves that. And I thank you all for bringing your shine this evening, you know, shining a light on this issue, shining a light on the community, shining a light on the ignorance and hypocrisy. You know, you're to be saluted for that. You know, and so I want to give each of our guests, before we do, fam, an opportunity just to have any kind of closing remarks that you just want to say and share. You're speaking to an audience right now, and gun violence. What needs to be done? Where are we? What say ye?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you what I found is that there are people everywhere willing to join this fight if you bring it to them and ask them. Some of those trumpet players are the most highly paid trumpet players in the United States. They volunteered every moment of their time. The studios volunteered all of the studio time. Everyone thinks this is an important fight. You just have to give them the opportunity to contribute. They will all contribute. And you got to find ways, because to reach people that may not just listen to you giving a speech or debating with them. So that song was sang at the Ford Theater's gala by my daughter to the Trumps and the Pences who were in attendance. They didn't really know that we were there to sing a song that was really about gun violence prevention. But we got a message across to them. And we did it in a sideways way. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You got to bring your message a little bit different. You know, and that's the way it can get through.
So well said. Ed, I'm not going to put you behind Zoe this time, Ed. So you get
No. We're gonna have Zoe. We're gonna have Zoe to go first. We're gonna have Zoe go next. Yeah, we're gonna have Zoe to go next. Zoe is a very busy young lady, so she has to go. She has things she got to do.
We got another meeting to go to.
Right.
Yeah, I have an interview in a few minutes.
Excellent.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful I was able to have this opportunity to talk with you guys. I think it's really important for people to realize that the only way we can end gun violence is if we all come together and realize that all of our experiences have one common root, and that is guns. And so I really implore everyone to get involved with March for Our Lives, especially this Saturday. If you can't come out this Saturday, there are so many more ways to get involved at marchforourlives.com. Also get involved in Shine. They do amazing work with the arts and helping people heal. And I just really encourage you all, regardless of who you are, you can all have an impact with activism.
Awesome. Thank
I'll
you,
see you
Zoe.
Saturday, Zoe. I'll see you Saturday.
All right,
Inshallah.
Bye. Bye, Zoe.
Bye, Zoe.
All right, Ed, what say ye,
Amazing,
sir?
amazing girl. Amazing girl.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
You're on mute.
Ed, you're on mute.
So the only thing I can say is at least the bleeding will stop now that Zoe's leaving. Now I can.
Got a blue pack for you.
But anyway, so listen. For me, the main thing that we have to do is keep communicating. The key to it all is communication. And at the end of the day, these twisted individuals that do these shootings are individuals that are trying to communicate their discontent with people or with the system. So another area we have to deal with is increasing our level of communication of love and not hate. And I think if we can work on that, I think a lot of stuff that Joe's talking about in terms of focusing on positives instead of negatives, and the same thing with Zoe, I think that's where we're going to have a major impact if we can do those things. So I'm with it 100%. Zoe, I'm behind you 100%, Joe. Whatever you guys need from me, Hain Security, we're here for you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right.
Same.
Let's give them some love, family. Give them that love that they deserve here, family. You know.
We all have to learn to carry each other's load, right?
Right.
Indeed.
Oh,
man.
indeed. And it's a heavy load.
Who'd have ever thunk that Parkland would be sitting in the same space and place with Liberty City in overtime? Who'd have ever thunk it? Good to go. All right. So, family, Joe and Ed, you all are free to go and continue to do the movement you do on the world. We don't want to keep you any longer. We're just going to have our closing remarks and we're going to be gone. But we want to thank you for what you not only contributed this evening, but what you do in your life's work. You know, and Ed, I should have said it when I was reading your memorized bio in my mind. For those who don't know, Brother Ed Haynes is in the history books. First Black police officer ever in the city of Miami Shores. Right there, Ed Haynes. You know.
Oh,
so,
wow.
You know, so I should have said that earlier, my dear brother, but we thank you for your work and your expertise. And thank you for your interview with the final call, Ed. You know, thank you for your interview with the final
yes,
call.
sir.
We look
Yes, sir.
Indeed, my dear brother. Great work. We love and appreciate you both.
All right, my brother. And I look forward. I'll see you. And I'll see you flat back in. So we'll be marching for our lives on Saturday.
Yes, sir, brother. I'll be marching for my life tonight. Appreciate you too.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
All right. All right. Peace. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Who team went around the world and came back.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to you know how when you pray and you pray and you pray and then you pray again, Zoe was one of those prayers.
Ooh.
And I don't know if you all experienced, but every time she spoke, the hairs on my body, they just lifted. Because she's talking from a divine intervention that she don't even know that she even has right now.
Go ahead.
So my prayer to continue on bringing her the key element to crack the code of how we can unify. You see, keep in mind, how did Prophet Muhammad or how did Master Farad Muhammad come 9,000 miles?
Go ahead.
How did he come? What complexion was he?
Come on.
To close the masses and to create one ummah, one God. So we have to be mindful of judging things based off of age and color.
Mm-hmm.
You dropped two mics, Sister Kalila. You dropped one, and then you dropped the other. He's like, now what?
No, but you know what, Brother Lau and Brother Sister Kalila, I think it's you. She just brought perspective. I think when you're listening to something, you would miss out because you may be looking at other aspects, right? But when Allah is using someone to get or do a work for Him, there is things that they will do that they don't even realize that they're doing. So I believe that's what you're trying to say is that
right.
Don't
Absolutely.
judge it. When you hear something, because listen, we know when you hear Him or when you hear His voice, right?
Come on.
We know when we're listening to.
Wait, Sister Michelle, you know my headphone, it just went out. You said when we hear whose voice, we know what? Would you say? I missed that.
We hear Allah, God's voice. Listen, His sheep know His voice.
Right.
But when you hear something that's coming from someone that's from Him, you can hear it because you are of His sheep. Don't look at the age, don't look at the color, because some of us that are here, that speak, you may want to wonder where that voice is coming from, because it's
they're called minions.
I'd like to say something.
That's what you said. That way.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, sir.
When Joe was speaking, I was bearing witness to what he was talking about in terms of arts programs, which are being have been increasingly being cut out in urban centers.
Yes.
In
That is true.
in the school that I taught for many years, there was no arts programs there. Well, where was their art program? They came by my classroom and they saw all the decoration on the wall. They asked me, "Are you the art teacher?" I'm like, "No, I teach social studies." But see, it became therapeutic for my students to express themselves in an artistic way. So I was bearing witness completely to what Joe was talking about, because in Black and brown communities, where oftentimes guns are found on doorsteps and we don't know how they got there. In communities like Opelika, where guns are more accessible than oftentimes and more, much more so than food. In Chicago and other places. See, this is a reality that all must become aware of. It's an issue not just of the NRA, gun lobbyists, or anything of that nature, but also the prison industrial complex. That is a big lobby also that we are up against. And it requires our unity. It requires for us, as Ed was mentioning, to turn inwardly and to work among our own so that we could resurrect our people and also save fallen humanity from the condition that it's in.
Just a reminder.
Brother Lyle's on mute.
Oh, brother Lyle, you're on mute. But just going back, remember there's something that this young lady is doing on Saturday. So if you can, please support.
And our dear brother is going to be there as well.
Absolutely.
That is
He's
correct.
probably already there, right? You there?
No, I'm not in Parkland. Why would I be in, right?
I don't know.
No, I'm there here. I'm there here.
Brother Lyle, there's
But-
a smaller event in Parkland tomorrow.
Yeah, it's no. It is. You have to understand, sir. You know, my tomorrow and my todays, they get kind of confused. You know, there's it's all like one big day that hasn't stopped yet. So we're working on that. But on that note, my closing remarks, family, just about you doing something.
Yeah.
You know, I never forget. I was talking to somebody who assisted a politician, and they quoted some famous author who said that in times of violence, the worst thing that you can do is say nothing. Is say nothing. And so we're just going to take that up a notch and say, in times of violence, the worst thing that you can do, the worst thing that can happen is that you don't do something that needs to be done. And so I just wanted to share this flyer, and I'm sharing it for a particular reason. And as I share it, this is a town hall meeting that's going to be taking place on Tuesday. But this is a unique town hall meeting, and what makes it unique is these aren't brothers and sisters that are waiting for the cavalry. These are brothers and sisters that are the cavalry. And the Healing and Justice Coalition, and I wish I could enlarge it for you, but you got to come to it. Y'all ever seen a black ambulance? Y'all ain't never seen nothing like that in your life. Tell the truth.
I've never seen it, but
well, it's more than that. But we got our own black ambulance. We're our own emergency response to community violence and trauma. And this whole program and project is going to be introduced on Tuesday. But whatever you're doing, family, have a discussion. My thing is, look, the 7th Region Coalition is telling you all, we got to fight for the lives of our babies. And I am closing on this. I sent my children into, I don't know, it might have been a Walmart or something like that. And I was sitting in the car. But this was a couple of days after Uvalde, right? And I'm like, man, if something pop, let me go up in this store. All general orders are in effect, family.
Absolutely.
All right. And to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, do what we're doing. Get involved and help save some lives. Teach your neighbors general orders. You don't think you got the eye? Teach the teachers in the schools general orders. Teach our people and continue to be morally decent and right, but make sure we're found doing something and being involved. You know, and I just thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for showing us
That's right.
the way, for showing us our value and our work as we work. Because family, look, if the father and the mother of the house are asleep, how the children going to get back up until we get back up? So they are children.
That's right.
I don't know. I think
Well,
I better
you
stop
are
right there.
totally in tune, Brother Lau. Because guess what?
on
Our
that-
tree of the
What's the
week
tree?
is.
What's the tree of the week? What's the tree of the week? Ah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
Love it.
Synchronicity. Look at that. Boom, bada, boom. Do something or stand for nothing. Do something.
You have to do something.
Everyone. Wow. Salute.
Beautiful. And we have a couple of announcements we want to definitely
on the topic.
Yes. Go ahead.
Survival, on the topic of
Go ahead.
Guiding our people safely in this hour, on the topic of saving lives. Sister Khalila, if you could put up that flyer.
Sure, absolutely.
Because there is a mighty and awesome program on Saturday night.
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there after I leave Parkland. So look, y'all, watch this.
Right.
I'm going from Parkland with March for Our Lives to Survival Awareness with Muhammad Mosque number 29.
Come on.
Go ahead, Brother Laugh.
He spins his web every night. Can't you see? Just look out. Here can God allow.
You know what?
So we want to invite everyone to
Lord.
We want to invite everyone to Muhammad Mosque number 29 in Miami. That's 5660 Northwest 7th Avenue at 1:30 p.m. We're going to have a survival awareness program. We're going to be discussing food shortages, how we could curtail food shortages in our communities and in our own households, how we can survive in this hour where, we're being told that we're in a time of inflation, but how can we be in a time of inflation and so many companies out there are making record profits?
See that, brother Tony?
And so,
Brother Tony,
I don't want to be here for another half an hour, brother.
No, I gotta tell you though, brother Tony, if they don't think that survival awareness and the food shortage is coming, what y'all need to do is to take your extra gas money and go buy some food.
Right.
My God.
That extra gas money, right?
That's an excellent.
But we have to be solution minded in this hour. Come on through to Muhammad Mosque this Saturday.
Now, brother Tony, this event is open to the public, right? I don't have to be a Muslim to come. I can be a Christian. I can be a brother, a sister.
You could be Hebrew Israelite. You could say how you say it, Ungawa Black Power. You could say free the land.
Mm-hmm.
You could say buenos dias. You could say sac passe.
Come on through, people.
Come on through.
And question, Brother Tony, is this going to be something that's televised? So therefore, if we cannot attend physically, is it something that's going to be live screened or things of that nature? Can we get some of the good?
I will inquire about that.
Please.
I will inquire about that and see what we could make happen.
Okay.
That
Praise be to Allah.
That is an awesome.
That was on my mind too. I was like, that was great. If you can't make it, you can still get the awareness because
you can still survive, huh?
Right.
You thought you was gonna die, huh?
Exactly.
Well, at minimum, we'll go Facebook Live.
Please,
hey,
that would be great. That would be great. Wonderful. And then also one more.
Oh, beautiful.
Keep in mind,
you got to prepare for this one.
Defense.
Definitely got to prepare for this.
And everyone invited, not just Muslims.
Right. And I want to also lift up what Grandmaster indicated in the last event, which was the Path, which was an awesome event.
Go back and check out our show with Grandmaster 2 family. Powerful,
yes.
Powerful.
He said the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan made it mandatory that women learn how to protect themselves.
Sis Kalila, can you say that again? My headphone went.
Sure.
What'd you say?
He said that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan made it mandatory that women know how to protect themselves. This national training is for women as well as men. Grandmaster actually not only taught the women on that weekend once, but he also taught us twice. Because he said, I want to make sure that it sticks. So it will be something that's not even a thought, and you chop it off the head of whoever attacks you.
Sis Kalila, for the non-believers, real quick, I want you to picture those two elementary school teachers in Uvalde when they came face to face with their perpetrator.
Come on.
I gotta be real with you. Had they been trained by that man,
come on,
it'd have been a different news story that day, family.
Come on.
Don't sleep on your training, family.
Praises be to Allah. And that was all my that was all my my closing remarks.
Ministry of Defense, family. We must protect and defend our home.
Absolutely.
You all did some protecting and defending tonight. I'm so proud of this beautiful team right here. You know, and I tell you, look, that's all right. They're gonna be scrambling for this message later on. They're gonna be looking for that video you show with Ed when all these red alerts come through. All right. You saw that first right here on Thursday Night Talk.
Listen, Brother
I was getting ready to go there.
No, well, just before you do that, but let's remember, tell the audience we're all about solutions, but this is out of many conversations that we've had with different individuals where we talk about solutions. Right. So before you jump off to this evening, make sure you share this video out.
Share it.
The family.
Go
ahead.
Also, sister. For the record, Sister Michelle, can you please lift the Ministry of Defense? And can somebody read that for the record really quickly?
Yes, I can. I can. You sure?
I got it right here.
All right, go ahead, Brother Lau. You go ahead. Yeah.
It's small, but I got it. I'm gonna zoom it up a little bit for me. I'm gonna go about the 150.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Ministry of Defense. The mission of the Ministry of Defense is to ensure the safety, security, and survival of the individual members of the Nation of Islam, their homes and property, as well as to defend the national interest of the Nation of Islam as a whole through the enhancement of its military and intelligence assets, structures, and institutions. And you were introduced to some of those tonight on the 7th Region Coalition. And for those of you who are not members of the Nation of Islam, you are.
Just don't know it.
Just don't know. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Brother Lau, take us out with your statement, what we do every week.
Family, we're not a gang. We're not a gang. We're not a clique. We're not a crew. But you know we love you, and we are the 7th Region Coalition. 7th Region Coalition.
We love you all. Next Thursday.